Amelia stood by the kitchen window, sunlight leaking through linen curtains, one hand resting on the soft swell of her lower belly. The pregnancy test sat on the counter like a little trophy, her fourth one, just to be sure. She had always imagined. Telling Grant would be a moment of joy, maybe even surprise. They had talked about kids before. Someday, he used to say. Not yet, but someday. That someday had arrived quietly, wrapped in nausea and cravings, and she believed, foolishly, perhaps, that he'd be ready. She texted him a photo of the scan 3 days ago. No reply. No call. Just silence. She chalked it up to shock. He was busy. Maybe he needed to let it settle. Her phone buzzed now. She didn't run to it. She walked. Grant, it's not working. I need space. 7 words. No punctuation except that final period. Cold, clinical. No explanation. Not even his usual. Hey. At the end of texts, his casual sign-off. Her first reaction wasn't anger. It was disbelief, then stillness. Like her body froze just long enough to protect itself from what her mind hadn't caught up to. She read it again. It's not working. I need space. There was no mention of the baby. No, I'm sorry. No, we'll talk. Nothing. She sat, down at the edge of the couch, legs trembling. She placed the phone on the coffee table like it might explode. Her breath came shallow, controlled. Her therapist once told her that when a trauma hits, the body enters preservation mode before the mind does. That must be what this was. Across the room, the fridge hummed. The sink dripped. The air conditioner kicked on. Normal sounds in a home no longer hers. She stared straight ahead, unable to cry. It felt like even her tears were waiting for context. Was this a breakup? A pause? An accident? Her thumb hovered over the keyboard. She wanted to type something. You're joking? Or what does this mean? But no message felt worthy of her dignity. She turned the phone face down. Later that evening, she opened the bedroom closet. Half of his clothes were gone. His running shoes. The gray blazer she bought him last Christmas. A scent of aftershave still lingered in the air. She sat on the floor, wrapped her arms around her knees, and breathed deeply, methodically, as she'd been taught in prenatal yoga. But this wasn't yoga. This was survival. At midnight. She called his number. Straight to voicemail. Again at 2:13 a.m. Still nothing. She didn't leave a message. She already felt humiliated enough. Morning came like a punishment. Amelia moved. In slow, deliberate motions, pouring cereal she didn't eat, boiling water for tea she didn't drink. She glanced at the scan still taped to the fridge, a small blur, a new heartbeat, a promise, and now, what? She opened her laptop and began researching. Pregnant and partner left me. What are my rights? Father disappears during pregnancy. Legal options? Click. Scroll. Bookmark. Download. She had never even imagined these questions would apply to her. At 11:04 a.m., her mother called. Amelia didn't answer. She didn't know how to explain it yet. She hadn't processed it herself. She didn't even feel angry, only hollow, like someone had taken a scoop from her chest and left her upright, blinking, pretending to be holed up. The end of the day, she was back on the couch, one hand absently stroking her belly, the other gripping a notepad. She began listing expenses. Prenatal vitamins, rent, hospital bills. She flipped the page. Started another list. Lawyer? Savings? DNA test? She wasn't sure what she was building. Only that she had to start. Somewhere inside her, a different kind of space was forming. Not the one Grant wanted, but one she could fill, with strategy, not sorrow. She picked up her phone again. Not to text him. To screenshot the message. She saved it. Evidence. Proof. Memory. Whatever this was, it had begun, and she wasn't going to disappear quietly. The morning after she saved the text, Amelia returned to the house they once shared. It felt different now, like trespassing on someone else's life. The driveway was empty. No trace of Grant's Tesla. She unlocked the front door, half expecting to hear music or the faint echo of him pacing during a call. But the silence greeted her like a verdict. The hallway smelled faintly of detergent and expensive cologne, a scent now ghost-like. She moved toward the bedroom with a slow, deliberate dread. The closet confirmed it. His side was gutted. Shirt's gone. Shoes missing. A hanger dangled sideways, as if it had been yanked in haste. No note. No forwarding address. No sign that a man had lived here. except the indentation on the memory foam mattress beside her side. She sat on the bed and let her hands rest on her belly. 5 months now. Not showing much unless you knew where to look. But she could feel the difference. Tight skin, subtle heaviness. And underneath it, a child. Maybe children. Twins ran in her family. That was just a thought, but one that lingered. She opened the nightstand drawer and found a photo from their honeymoon. Italy. A small village in Cinque Terre. They were smiling, cheeks sunburned, teeth wine-stained. She stared at the photo for 10 long seconds before slipping it into the drawer and shutting it. The next few days moved like thick syrup. Neighbors avoided her. The woman across the street, who always waved while gardening, now ducked into her car without making eye contact. One even crossed the street to avoid walking past their porch. Cowards, she thought. Or maybe just afraid to pick a side. She called Grant's mother, once. No answer. She didn't try again. The chaos in her chest threatened to take over, but she refused to collapse. Instead, she pulled out a yellow legal pad and opened her laptop. She created folders, digital and physical. Banks. She checked their joint accounts. Only her name now showed up. His money was moved somewhere else. Ultrasounds. She uploaded scans from every visit. Labeled them by week. Doctors. She listed every upcoming appointment. She added her OBGYN's card to her fridge with a fresh magnet. Housing. Rent was due in 12 days. She emailed the landlord to confirm Grant's name had been removed. It had. This was her house now. Not a shared space. Not a home. A shell. But still, hers. She closed the curtains one by one, as if reducing light would. Reduce vulnerability. She hadn't told anyone at work yet. She hadn't told her mother. She hadn't cried. Instead, she moved like someone trained for crisis. Steps without emotion, just muscle memory and function. Her evenings became a loop. Boil rice. Steam vegetables. Take vitamins. Rest hand on belly. Stare at fridge. Breathe. She pinned the latest ultrasound scan beneath a calendar marked with red circles. She didn't look at it for long, but she made sure it was visible. She wanted reminders, not of what she'd lost, but what still needed her. The house was quiet now, except for the rhythmic ticking of the kitchen clock and the occasional creak of wood shifting. She didn't play music. She didn't scroll Instagram. She disconnected the Alexa speaker. Everything was intentional now, even the stillness. That night, she lay in bed and whispered to the silence, "We're okay." Not as a prayer, but as a statement, because something inside her had changed, not healed, not yet, but transformed. The loneliness was no longer a hole. It was a perimeter, a defense. She was not waiting for Grant to return. She was preparing for whatever came next, and the next thing would arrive not in words, but in numbers. 3 of them. The clinic waiting room buzzed with quiet chatter and the sound of someone's ringtone playing an upbeat tune. Amelia sat alone, clutching her water bottle with both hands, a clipboard balanced on her knee. She was exactly 20 weeks today, the halfway mark. The nurse called her name, and she stood slowly, smoothing her sweater over the small but distinct swell beneath it. She had come alone, again. The receptionist didn't even ask if someone would be joining her this time. Inside the dim ultrasound room, the same technician from her 12-week scan greeted her with a gentle smile. "Let's take a look at how baby's growing," she said. Gel. Wand. Silence. Then, a long, sharp inhale. Amelia's eyes flicked toward the screen. "What?" The technician gave a small chuckle. "You're going to want to see this." She turned the monitor toward Amelia. There it was, not one flickering heartbeat, but 3 distinct sacs, 3 heads, 3 tiny rib cages rising and falling. "Triplets," the tech said, voice light, like announcing a raffle winner. "All measuring on track. Spontaneous. No fertility drugs." Amelia blinked. "No," she said, her voice flat. She laughed, suddenly, uncontrollably. A stunned, breathless laugh that echoed in the sterile room. Then she covered her mouth with both hands and cried. She sat in the clinic parking lot for 20 minutes afterward, seat reclined, window cracked. Cars came and went around her. She stared at the ultrasound prints in her lap. 3 grainy images. 3 lives. 3 impossible responsibilities. 3. How was she going to do this? She reached for her phone, not to call Grant. She didn't even consider it. Instead, she Googled, "Public Defender for Custody and Child Support Cases, Private Spouse." How to file paternity suit when father disappeared. It didn't take long. She landed on a local legal aid office that offered free consultations for single mothers. She dialed. A calm voice answered. Her own came out trembling but firm. Hi. I need help. I'm 20 weeks pregnant, with triplets, and the father left without warning. 3 days later, she sat across from a woman named Jordan Reyes, a sharp, no-frills public defender with tired eyes and a stack of manila folders. Jordan flipped through Amelia's documents. Medical records, a printed screenshot of Grant's text, a list of assets Amelia had pulled from old financial statements. You're smart to get ahead of this, Jordan said. He's got money, so we'll need to move fast before he tries to shield it. Amelia asked the questions clearly, one by one, notebook in hand. Can I file for support before they're born? Can I make him take a DNA test? Will I need to see him in person? Jordan nodded at each, offering legal explanations in calm, measured tones. But underneath the professionalism, Amelia caught something else, a flash of respect. Most women who walked through Jordan's door were crushed. Amelia? She was calculating. That night, back home, Amelia stood in the kitchen staring at 3 small ultrasound pictures pinned beside the calendar. She lit a candle. Not for prayer, for clarity. Then she opened her laptop and renamed her pregnancy folder, the case. Inside it, she began filing subfolders. Grant, financials, baby, medical, legal, documents, strategy, notes. The chaos had shape now. It didn't scare her anymore. It fueled her. She placed her hand on her stomach. We're going to be okay, she whispered. All 4 of us. Then she opened a new document. At the top, she typed, Plan A, prepare for war. The apartment was quiet again. Amelia had started working remotely part-time, writing product descriptions for a friend's small business. It didn't pay much, but it kept her occupied. Her body ached more now. 24 weeks. Sleep was fractured. Her mind was not late. One evening, she sat in bed with her laptop propped on a pillow. The glow from the screen bathed her face in a pale blue light. A half-filled glass of wine, poured to pretend, not to drink, sat untouched on the nightstand. She was looking up real estate listings, just out of curiosity, when her mouse hovered over an old browser tab. Grant's LinkedIn. She clicked. Still. Active. Same smug profile photo. Still CEO. Still charming in that curated, investor-friendly way. She scrolled down and saw something new. Recent activity. Just a like post. Some real estate partner tagging him in a celebration. Amelia clicked through out of reflex. There was a photo. Not from the boardroom, but a beachfront balcony. Champagne in hand. Grant in a white linen shirt, sunglasses pushed up onto his hair, his arm around a much younger woman in a yellow sundress. She had legs that went on forever, hair down to her waist. Smiling like she owned the moment. The caption, perfect weekend with the best man, clinking glasses, #sunkissed, #new beginnings, tagged at Sierra Blair. Amelia didn't blink. She stared. She stared for a long time. The cursor hovered over the photo as if it might bite. She clicked on Sierra's profile. Open. Photos. Reels. A birthday dinner with Grant. Rooftop cocktails. Shopping bags. Sunset kisses. Sierra was everything Amelia wasn't at the moment. Free, glowing, unburdened by life. And Grant looked happy. Not conflicted. Not guilty. Happy. She closed the tab. Then reopened it. Then stared at the champagne glass beside her laptop. Her hand drifted down to rest on her belly, heavy now. Solid. Real. She hadn't even told him about the triplets yet. She was waiting. For what? She wasn't sure. Maybe for a time when she didn't sound emotional. Or angry. Or weak. But now, she opened her messages and started typing. She paused. Deleted. Typed again. Then she wrote, without greeting or punctuation, you might want to start saving. There are 3. Sent and O emojis. No explanation. She didn't need him to answer. She just needed him to know that an hour passed. No reply. She shut the laptop and turned to the baby clothes piled in the corner. Onesies. Blankets. A single pair of soft socks she couldn't bring herself to return. She sat cross-legged and picked up one tiny shirt, held it to her face, breathed in the cotton. The betrayal no longer stung like fire. It settled more like cold metal, a weight she could carry, now that she wasn't carrying it alone. 3 lives. One mother. One coward. She stood, folded the clothes, and placed them into labeled drawers. Boy 1 girl, boy 2 no names. Yet, not until she was ready. But tonight, she had used the only name that mattered, Grant, and she'd just lit the fuse beneath his new fantasy life. The message was still unread. Amelia checked once, then again. Nothing. No reply from Grant, but she hadn't expected one. That wasn't the point. The next morning, she sat in the waiting room of Blake & Associates, a boutique family law firm tucked into a nondescript office building downtown. The carpet was beige. The silence was sharp. She wore her best maternity dress, dark blue with buttons down the side. Her belly was unmistakable now, resting just beneath her folded hands. She looked like someone prepared. She was someone prepared. A door opened. A tall woman in all black stepped out, clipboard in hand. Her hair was pulled into a tight, silver bun, her eyes hidden behind thin-rimmed glasses. No smile. Just, Amelia? Amelia stood. Her knees locked briefly. She followed the woman down a hallway lined with framed judgments. Custody wins, property splits, big names. The name on the door read, Evelyn Blake, Esq. Inside, the room was cold and modern. Chrome desk, leather chairs, a coffee machine in the corner, untouched. Evelyn motioned for her to sit. Then, without preamble, she began. I read your file. Triplets, yes? Amelia nodded. Abandonment mid-pregnancy. No contact. No financial assistance. Another nod. Did he respond to your last message? No. Evelyn looked up for the first time. Good. She slid a thick folder across the desk. We're going to make him regret disappearing. The conversation moved fast. Clinical. Calculated. Evelyn asked for dates, addresses, statements. Amelia answered like she was reciting a report. Then came the hard part. Evelyn explained the steps. File for temporary support. Establish paternity. With court-ordered testing. Secure child custody rights. Before he tries to flip the narrative. He wants a clean break? Evelyn said, voice flat. Let's make it expensive. Amelia said nothing. Just nodded. Her fingers pressed against her belly. One of the babies kicked. A reminder. Silent, but strong. Evelyn pulled out a retainer agreement. Sign here. Once this is in, we serve him formally. Amelia hesitated only a second, then took the pen. Her hand trembled slightly, but her signature was steadied. It felt like slicing the final chord. When she left the office, Amelia didn't cry. She didn't even blink at the sunlight hitting her face. She walked down the stairs slowly, hand trailing the railing, a new weight settling on her. Not panic, not grief, authority. She had taken the first step toward justice, and this time, she wasn't alone. She had a lawyer, she had a case, and she had a reason to win. Grant was holding a glass of champagne when the envelope arrived. He and Sierra were in the middle of hosting a gender reveal party, though not their own. It was Sierra's best friend's celebration, held at a rented villa with balloon arches and catered sushi. Everything was pink. Even the cocktails. Sierra looked radiant in a silk dress. She kissed Grant on the cheek as she snapped a photo for her story. He barely noticed the delivery man approaching, until the large white envelope was handed directly into his palm. Mr. Wexler? The man asked. Grant nodded without thought. You've been served. The mood didn't shift immediately. Grant tucked the envelope under his arm and smiled for a few more pictures, pretending it was nothing. But as soon as he stepped into the bathroom, his hands trembled. Inside was a summons. A formal petition for child support. A pending paternity suit. A motion to establish custody. Attached were 3 ultrasound scans, clearly labeled, Baby A, Baby B, Baby C. His name was on every page. He leaned against the marble counter, heartbeat accelerating. Triplets? He hadn't even responded to her message. He thought she was bluffing. He thought she'd vanish, quietly. Instead, she'd come with paperwork. The next morning, Evelyn Blake called him directly. He answered, voice low and annoyed. You're suing me? He snapped. She didn't flinch. For what you pretended didn't exist. He scoffed. This is extortion. This is accountability. He hung up. Later that week, Grant showed up at his mother's house, hoping to rally support. But when she opened the door, her expression was unreadable. I assume you've seen the papers, he said. She nodded slowly, stepping aside but not welcoming. You think she's really going through with this? He asked, trying to sound amused. His mother looked him dead in the eye. She already has. And if you think I'm going to side with the man who abandoned his pregnant wife, you don't know me anymore. Grant stood frozen. You're taking her side? No. I'm taking the side of 3 children who didn't ask for this. Then she shut the door by the end of the week. Grant's lawyer advised him to respond formally before things escalated. She's got someone fierce on her side, the lawyer said. You can't ignore this. Grant didn't sleep much that night. Sierra asked why he was pacing. He said work. She didn't press. But for the first time, Grant felt the walls closing. And he thought Amelia was soft. Passive. A shadow. He was wrong. She was a storm with a signature now. And her name was on the paperwork. The hospital room was sterile and humming, bathed in the soft flicker of monitors and the cold pulse of fluorescent ceiling lights. Rain tapped against the window in erratic rhythms. A lullaby only Amelia could hear. 11 hours. That's how long labor lasted. 11 hours of measured breathing, clenched teeth, whispered affirmations, and no one in the waiting room. No calls. No texts. Not from Grant. Not from his mother. She had brought a nurse with her as her support person, Elise, kind-eyed and quiet, who stayed beside her from the first contraction to the final push. When the third cry rang out, 2 minutes after the second, Amelia burst into tears, her body shaking. Not from pain. From the sheer sound of life. 2 boys. 1 girl. They were tiny and squirming in their warmed bassinets, each marked with matching wristbands. Baby A had strong lungs, screaming with ferocity. Baby B blinked up with a stunned calm. Baby C, the girl, held Amelia's finger the moment it brushed her palm, and one brought flowers. No congratulations came through the door, but Amelia didn't notice the absence anymore. She noticed the weight of 3 hospital blankets on her chest, 3 pairs of lungs breathing without fear, 3 mouths that had no idea what had been lost, only what had been gained. After the babies were taken to the nursery for monitoring, a clerk entered with a clipboard. Birth certificate forms, she said gently. Amelia sat up straighter in bed. Give me the one with father's name. The clerk hesitated. If he's not here to sign, you may. I'm filing it anyway. Amelia cut in, her voice low but steady. She took the form, wrote Grant Wexler in the box, and handed it back. I've got proof. He'll challenge it in court if he wants. The woman nodded and left. Outside the window, the rain had picked up, trailing like veins down the glass. Amelia stared into the gray beyond, her arms wrapped around her own stomach, now soft and hollow. She whispered, "You don't need him." It wasn't for herself. It was for them. The room was quiet except for distant beeping and the occasional footsteps of nurses changing shifts. The hospital, for all its noise, gave her something she hadn't felt in months: control. Later that night, a young nurse wheeled the 3 bassinets back into the room. Amelia reached for each in turn, tucked in their blankets, smoothed their hair. She didn't know what came next. She just knew it was hers to decide. One of the boys stirred, letting out a small whimper. She hummed something soft and tuneless, something her mother used to sing during thunderstorms. The storm outside raged louder, wind pushing against the windows, but inside, there was only breath, only heartbeats, only beginnings. The envelope was thick, pearlescent, and heavy with perfume, tacky in a way only the rich and tasteless could afford. Amelia found it wedged between a baby formula coupon and a medical bill in her mailbox. No return address. But she didn't need one that she already knew. She opened it carefully, sliding her finger beneath the flap with surgical precision. A white and gold trifold card spilled out, embossed with vines and doves. In elegant script, Grant Wexler and Sierra Blair request the honor of your presence at their wedding celebration. Date, time, location, Ocean View Estate. Private ceremony. Champagne to follow. No children. Amelia let the card fall onto the kitchen counter beside a bottle of gripe water and a pacifier. The babies were napping in the next room. The only sound was the rhythmic whoosh of the white noise machine. She didn't cry. Not even a twitch. She picked up her phone, snapped a photo of the invitation, and forwarded it to Evelyn with one line, "Should I attend?" Seconds later, her phone buzzed. Evelyn, yes. But don't come alone. That night, Amelia didn't sleep. She stayed up sorting through legal files, receipts, and notarized records. She updated the binder Evelyn had given her. The tab marked public image had been empty until now. Now, it was about to get interesting. She printed out every photo Sierra had posted with the babies cropped out of view, but Grant's face front and center. Always smiling, always golden. The doting fiancé. The dream partner. Except there was another side of the dream. It wore diapers. And carried his DNA. 2 weeks later, Evelyn sent over a packet marked Appearance Strategy. Inside were details, dress code, documentation, media protocol, just in case. Amelia read every word. She wasn't angry anymore. She was prepared. She bought a dress. Not new, but clean and sharply tailored. Navy blue. Nursing friendly. She had it hemmed to fall perfectly over her shoes. The morning of the wedding, she packed 3 things into her diaper bag. A legal folder containing paternity confirmation, a court-approved financial disclosure order, 3 laminated photos. Baby A, Baby B, Baby C. Each labeled with Grant's last name. She didn't need to cause a scene. She just needed to arrive. Standing in front of the mirror, Amelia adjusted her necklace and looked herself in the eye. Her body still carried the signs of pregnancy, but her expression was something else entirely. Not broken, not bitter, just focused. Outside, the sitter fastened the triplets into their car seats. Amelia double-checked every strap before climbing in. She didn't play music. She didn't rehearse speeches. She didn't hope for confrontation. She brought facts. As the car pulled away from the curb, Amelia looked back once at the small apartment that had held all her fear, all her planning, all her nights alone. Now she was headed somewhere new, not to celebrate a union, but to deliver a reminder. There was no such thing as a clean break. Not when 3 little hearts carried your name. Golden. Light poured across the lawn of the Ocean View estate. Rows of white chairs sat in perfect lines under a canopy of twinkling fairy lights. Champagne flowed freely. Strings of soft jazz floated over clinking glasses and rehearsed laughter. Everything was curated, flawless. Sierra stood near the arch, surrounded by pastel flowers and bridesmaids in matching silk gowns. Her dress was backless, delicate, and sculpted to impress. A photographer circled her like paparazzi on a red carpet. Grant was off to the side, shaking hands with executives and smiling through thin lips. His tux was perfect, hairstyled to the last strand, but his fingers fidgeted around the champagne flute. Then came the sound. A van pulling up, not valet, not limo. A black passenger van. Matte paint, tinted windows. It didn't belong. Conversations faltered. Guests turned their heads. The door slid open. Out stepped Amelia. She wore navy. Sleek, structured, no sequins, no frills. Her hair was pulled back in a low knot, her face calm, expressionless, almost chillingly so. Behind her, a woman in medical scrubs stepped out holding one car seat. Then another woman, young and focused, carried the second. And then, one more. 3 infant carriers, each with a baby inside. 3 heads. 3 matching outfits. 3 unmistakable statements of presence. Photographers froze mid-shot. One camera shutter echoed unnaturally loud. Gasps swept through the crowd like a ripple through water. Sierra's smile faltered. Her arm dropped. Her gaze locked on Amelia. What? Grant turned, slow. He went pale before his brain even caught up. And then Evelyn stepped forward from behind a nearby tree, dressed in dark legal formal wear. Evelyn Blake emerged like a shadow sharpening into shape. She held a black leather binder in one hand, a manila envelope in the other. She walked past Sierra without a glance. Stopped inches from Grant. Grant Wexler, she said coolly, you've been served. She handed him the envelope. Then she turned and handed the black binder to a nearby photographer. You may want to document this. Grant didn't speak. His mouth opened, closed. No words came. Sierra whispered, who are they? Evelyn answered without turning, his children. Amelia didn't cause a scene. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't cry. She simply walked to the edge of the aisle, adjusted the strap of one baby carrier on the nanny's arm, and looked directly at Grant, not past him, not through him, at him. Then she bent down and kissed the forehead of the smallest child, baby C, the girl, and whispered, you'll never chase a man who runs. She stood, smiled faintly, not a soft smile, a final one. And walked back to the van. Behind her, chaos bloomed, guests whispered. Cameras clicked. Sierra backed away from Grant like a lit fuse. A bridesmaid cursed under her breath. Grant didn't. Chase heard he couldn't move. The envelope in his hand was shaking. Inside, DNA confirmation, court-mandated financial disclosure deadlines, custody petition, and a copy of every missed email and ignored message since Amelia's second trimester. All time-stamped. All admissible. Amelia climbed into the van. The doors slid shut behind her. The baby stirred but did not cry. The driver pulled away slowly, rolling past the shocked crowd. The van's black body gleamed under fairy lights that now looked cheap and exposed. Inside, Amelia looked down at her children. Two now asleep, one wide-eyed and calm. She didn't speak. She didn't smile. She didn't have to, because she had already said everything she needed to, without ever raising her voice. The courtroom smelled like wood polish and stale coffee. Pale morning light filtered through tall windows, casting slanted beams across polished benches. The crowd was thin, just a few reporters, legal clerks, and 3 rows of silent spectators. Grant Wexler sat stiffly at the defendant's table, a crisp navy suit hugging his frame, jaw clenched tight. His lawyer, a man named Rothwell, leaned in to whisper something, but Grant didn't respond. He just stared across the room at Amelia. She sat calmly beside Evelyn, her blouse simple, her hair tied back. No dramatics, just clarity. In her lap lay a closed folder. Her hands rested atop it, behind her. A court-appointed sitter watched over 3 car seats lined neatly against the wall. 2 sleeping, 1 blinking slowly. The bailiff stood. All rise. Judge Karina Ford entered. Sharp-eyed. Controlled. No nonsense. Let's proceed. Grant's team went first. They tried to reframe the timeline, suggested Amelia had withheld communication, painted her as difficult, emotional, non-cooperative. Rothwell implied that perhaps the children weren't Grant's, that she had used them as leverage once she realized who he was marrying, that it was strategic and cold. Amelia never looked away. Her expression didn't shift, even when they displayed filtered photos from Sierra's social media as evidence of Grant's new life. But Evelyn was ready. She rose with silent confidence and unfolded a single sheet of paper. Your Honor, she said, we begin with facts, not feelings. She passed the document to the judge. A stamped DNA report. Mr. Wexler is the biological father of all 3 children. There is no dispute. There is only avoidance. Then came the second strike. Bank records. Transfers. Shell accounts. Evelyn displayed a slideshow of transactions showing that during Amelia's pregnancy, while Grant ignored all communication, he moved over $900,000 into private holdings under Sierra's name. Would the court like to see the matching wedding expenses? Evelyn asked calmly. The judge nodded. .1 click. A floral invoice. A luxury honeymoon deposit. A private chef's retainer. Paid in full. Grant shifted in his chair. Sweat beaded at his temple. Then Evelyn delivered the final blow. A screenshot. A timestamp text. From Grant to Sierra, 3 weeks after Amelia's 20-week scan. She says she's having triplets. Probably bluffing. Evelyn let the silence settle. Then the judge turned to Grant. Do you deny knowing about the children? Grant opened his mouth, closed it. Then, she manipulated the situation. She trapped me. Evelyn didn't blink. With what, Your Honor? Biology. The room stayed quiet. Then the judge looked down at the paperwork. She tapped a gavel once. Light, but firm. 3 children. 1 father. 1 responsibility. Later, outside the courtroom, reporters swarmed. Flashbulbs. Questions. But Amelia didn't stop. She stepped onto the courthouse steps, holding 1 baby in her arms. Evelyn carried another. The sitter trailed behind with the third. .1 reporter called out. Do you feel vindicated? Amelia turned her head just slightly. They deserve better, she said softly. Then she walked toward the waiting car. Behind her, Grant stood frozen on the steps, blinking in the sunlight, holding nothing. The courthouse steps were nearly empty now. Reporters had dispersed. Evelyn was already gone, back to her office, filing the next round of paperwork. The sitter had loaded the babies into the car, giving Amelia a moment alone to breathe. She stood beneath a pale sky, her coat wrapped tightly around her. The cold didn't bother her. Footsteps echoed behind her. She didn't need to turn to know. Amelia. Grant's voice She stayed still till he came around to face her, his tie loosened, face paler than usual. There were lines under his eyes now. Stress, maybe, or truth finally catching up. He began, then stopped. Tried again. I was scared. She looked at him, expression unreadable. I didn't know how to be a father, he said. 3 kids? All at once. I panicked. His voice cracked slightly. And when you sent that message, I thought, if I ignored it, it would go away. I know that sounds terrible. It is, she said quietly. Grant nodded. I know. A long silence settled between them. The city moved on around them. Cars. Distant sirens. Life. He shifted. You looked good in court, he added. Strong. Amelia didn't reply. I thought maybe you'd want to talk. She tilted her head. About what? I don't know. Us. She exhaled, calmly, but with weight. There is no us. Grant flinched slightly. Can we at least try to be civil? For the kids. Amelia's gaze drifted past him to the parked car where 3 small silhouettes waited, bundled in warmth and oblivious to the wreckage behind them. Then she looked at Grant. Really looked. I've already been civil, she said. Civil enough not to destroy you. He blinked. Is that what this was about? Revenge. She shook her head. No. That would have been easy. This was about truth. He opened his mouth again, but she raised a hand gently, stopping him. Without anger, just clarity, Amelia stepped closer, not to him, but to the car. She opened the door, leaned in, and kissed each of the triplets on the forehead one by one. Then she turned to him and said, Goodbye, Grant. Not see you later. Not take care, just goodbye. And she meant it. She slid into the car and shut the door. The engine hummed. The driver pulled away. Grant stood on the curb alone, watching the vehicle shrink into the distance. He had wanted closure. Words. Some exchange to soothe his conscience. But Amelia didn't give him that, because closure doesn't come from conversation. It comes from peace. And she now owned that completely. The park was nearly empty, save for the rustle of leaves under strollers and the occasional bark of a distant dog. Autumn had arrived quietly, just enough chill in the air to call for light jackets and warm fingers. Amelia sat on a bench beneath a wide maple tree, the branches gold and amber above her. A blanket was spread nearby, cluttered with juice boxes, plastic trucks, and snack crumbs. Her 3 were just ahead, running, tumbling, wobbling through the grass like tiny explorers in mismatched hats. No one watching would guess their history. No one could see the courtroom. The text. The silence. All they saw were 3 children chasing falling leaves, laughing like the world owed them nothing but joy. And their mother. Amelia leaned back, one leg crossed over the other, her hands resting in her lap. A coffee cup sat beside her, half drunk and long cold. She didn't need caffeine to feel awake anymore. Peace did the job. The past wasn't gone, but it had shrunk into sharp-edged memory she could now touch without bleeding. There were no more court dates on her calendar. No more nights waiting for answers that never came. Everything was settled. Child support arrived on the 1st of every month. Direct deposit. No contact. Grant hadn't reached out again. Sierra had disappeared entirely. And Amelia? She was still tired, still juggling bills, still learning how to stretch one woman into 3 mothers. But she was standing. More than standing. She was watching her children chase each other in circles and felt, finally, like her life was hers again. One of the boys tripped, landing softly in a pile of leaves. He didn't cry. He blinked, looked around, and let out a giggle. His sister dropped beside him, holding out a hand, tiny, dirt-smudged, helping without hesitation. Amelia smiled. 3 small hands. 3 completely different personalities. She no longer saw the absence when she looked at them. No shadows of their father. No question marks. Just life, loud and insistent and beautifully theirs. She stood, stretching slowly, and walked to join them. The toddlers squealed, wrapping around her legs, tugging at her sleeves. Reaching up with sticky fingers, she bent down and gathered them close, one by one. I've got you, she whispered, and they believed her. They headed back to the bench, Amelia with 1 twin on each hip, the 3rd trailing behind holding the corner of her coat. That a passing stranger smiled at them. Triplets? The woman asked, eyes wide. Amelia nodded. Wow, you're incredible. Amelia didn't deflect, didn't wave it off like before. She just said, thank you. Because it was true. She didn't just survive abandonment, betrayal, and humiliation. She turned it into structure, into strategy, into strength. She had rewritten what it meant to be left behind. As the sun dipped lower, casting long shadows on the playground, Amelia gathered their things and headed toward the car. Leaves crunched beneath their tiny shoes. Her daughter reached up, clutching Amelia's finger. One son followed, trying to match her stride. The last trailed behind, curious, dreamy, stopping to pick up a leaf and show it proudly to the wind. Amelia didn't rush them. She let them walk at their own pace. After all, it was their future now, and this time they wouldn't have to chase it.